A note to our listeners before our interview with Annabelle Nakabiri. This conversation touches on sensitive topics, including human trafficking, sexual violence, and suicidal thoughts. We also discuss how Annabelle's organization, the Remnant Generation, helps survivors see healing and empowerment, and how Ozinga has played a role in Annabelle's mission. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Said in Stone, an Ozinga podcast, where we converge with industry leaders, our own expert coworkers, and others on what we've made, what we can build on, and the legacy we'll leave behind. Subscribe to the program on your preferred podcast app, as well as on YouTube for full video of every conversation. And give us a follow on Instagram at saidinstone_podcast. Today's guest is Annabelle Nakabiri, founder and executive director of the Remnant Generation, a faith-based ministry dedicated to the healing, restoration, and empowerment of survivors of sexual abuse and teen mothers across the African community. In Annabelle's native Uganda, statistics show that 1 in 4 girls will experience sexual abuse before age 18. A victim herself at age 13, Annabelle eventually turned that pain into purpose. And since 2015, her organization has impacted the lives of over 11,000 young women and girls in crisis situations, providing counseling and safety, as well as access to education, healthcare, and job training. With January being National Human Trafficking Prevention Month in the United States, we felt it important for Annabelle to share her story, details on the Remnant Generation's holistic transformation model, and how you at home can support their vision. Here's today's conversation, led by Ozinga CEO Marty Ozinga.
We have put this podcast studio together, and we're not exactly sure what it's going to turn into, but we're trying a lot of different things. You want to introduce yourself, just so everybody knows who you are and where you're from, and then we can kind of get into your story and how we know each other.
My name is Annabelle Nakabiri, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Remnant Generation. From Uganda. I am married to Isaac Mukisa, and we have 3 lovely children, a 12-year-old, an 10-year-old, and a 5-year-old. So it's a full, busy
Yeah, and you've been in the United States for how long now?
It is 4 weeks now.
4 weeks, and,
yes.
and you're heading home tomorrow.
I'm heading home tomorrow.
So you're happy to see those kiddos, and they're happy to see you, I'm sure, and they want to see Mama.
Yeah.
I want to just sort of give my version of the story of how we even know each other, and then you can tell some of your story, if that's okay.
Yeah.
My dad served on the board of an organization called the Luke Society, and it's a medical mission organization where Luke Society partners with doctors in countries all over the world to provide basic health needs to people in a lot of times areas or regions where they don't have good health care. And one of the areas that my dad was first going to for many, many years was Uganda, into some of the same slums that you guys minister in now in Kampala. And when Isaac was a very young boy, somehow he caught my dad's attention, and he was very impressed. When he would visit Uganda, of course, there was so many people he would meet, but you can't sort of be friends with everybody and whatnot. But in this case, I think Isaac so impressed him that my dad went out of his way to give his mother his business card. And he said to Isaac's mom, he said, someday when he's of age, you have him come look for me, because I'd love to, we're always looking for good people at Ozinga, and, have him come look for me, and we'd be happy to offer him a job or something along these lines. And Isaac's mom kept that business card for many, many years until Isaac was an adult. And when Isaac had an opportunity to go to the United States, he took that business card and he started to look for my dad here in the Chicago area. And he ended up going to, knocking on the church of a church that I was going to at the time, because my name is the same as my dad's name, and it was on the website of the church. I was an elder in the church, and so all of a sudden I get a call from the pastor and says Isaac is here from a man named Isaac is here from Uganda, and he says he's here to see you. And I thought, well, I don't know who this is, but I know my dad has a lot of connections in Uganda, so of course I thought to call him and my dad was happy to connect, and then we started a friendship from there. And we eventually, my dad and myself and my son Marty and my daughter Elise went to see you guys in Uganda and had a very nice time there. And we've been supporting the good work that you're doing.
Yeah.
As the Remnant Generation organization that you and Isaac are involved with. Yeah, it's just been a friendship that's been developing over many years, and it started, that was sort of the original connection way back when, and it was really interesting to me to see Isaac's mom in her village, and she's found that same business card even after all these years.
And she still has it.
And she still has it. That's just amazing. And, it's incredible what the power of connection and even a simple business card and, what God is up to through many, many years and many different, he's still not through with any of us. And yet part of the adventure of all of it to see where things lead. Yeah, I think it would be good and helpful and interesting to kind of get to learn more about you and your story and your burden, your calling, and the Remnant Generation organization. But I'll turn it over to you at this point, Annabelle, and just kind of hear your story. And I think listeners would be fascinated.
Thank you, Marty. I think as we are sharing how we got connected, I was reflecting on that scripture that says in the Bible that I knew you before you were formed. That in those years, we had no clue. I didn't know that Isaac would be my husband. I didn't know
right.
that, there was that connection with the Ozinga family. And now many years later, when I meet Isaac, the adult Isaac, and we are married now, and he found me at the time when I was beginning, to resign out of my first job to start the Remnant Generation. And the first time he comes to the USA is the time that he's able to
okay.
Yeah, that was his very first trip to the United States, that he was able to connect to the Ozinga family, and then you become part of this story of the Remnant Generation. So the Remnant Generation is a ministry that serves girls that are survivors of sexual abuse and teenage pregnancy, and it was birthed out of my personal testimony of God healing and transforming my pain into purpose. I come from a Muslim family of many children, and there are so many dynamics that come with a polygamous family. A lot of brokenness and a lot of dysfunctionality, neglect, and abuse at different levels. So at some point, my parents separated because they couldn't stay together for reasons that, like adults that really fail to connect and resolve things. So they found it important to separate. And during that time of separation, there were adults that were put in charge of care to provide care for us, and I got abused by a family member, sexually abused by a family member. And that time of our life, it's such things where I got to understand that we're not supposed to be talked about. When I sought help to report to some of my family members that were close by so that I can get help, they told me to keep quiet. They told me to never talk about it. Those are things that bring shame to the family. I was a young girl. I was 13 years old. And I remember how that completely changed my view of life, my view of self, my understanding of who I was and self-worth. And I think the heaviest pain was, why is it that the people I expected to protect me were actually not doing anything? The person that abused me, there was no meeting, there was no disciplinary action taken. I was a statistic that was never reported to police. I was not taken to hospital for medical care. I remember being given a lot of herbs and a lot of things to take to make sure that I'm okay, and just telling me not, to keep quiet and not to play with my other friends, because now I had become an adult and I didn't have to tell other kids, otherwise I'll be spoiling them or teaching them bad things. So I was very, very confused. And as a girl that is starting out in her earlier teenage years, I felt very dirty and unworthy. And I grew up with a sense of low esteem. And I felt like for the rest of my life, I was going to be like a second... to live a second-hand life. I didn't know that I had permission to have dreams or anything. So, and during the same space of time, because my mom was the one that was really pushing that we go to school, and when she left home and the abuse happened, chances, became very, very slim, close to none, that I was able to continue in school. So I dropped out of school, and I was being prepared to be married off to a man as a second wife, because there was
at 13?
At the age of 13, yes. And it wasn't a strange thing, because most of my elder sister had been married off young. My mom, was a teen mom. My aunties, my grandparents, my grandmothers. It was just a generational thing that was part of culture, part of religion. It was socially acceptable.
And legal.
Yeah. So there was nothing like the law would come, and even if really in context I was a child, there was nothing like a lot of intentionality to really come and say, oh, someone will save you with that situation, because it was happening for many girls, not just me, and no one was doing anything about it. And I knew that if I do not run away from home, the story was not going to change. No one was going to stand up for me. No one stood up for me when I was abused. No one is going to stand up for me because I felt like I wasn't ready for marriage.
Had you seen this person, or did you know who this was? Or
yeah, I had seen this person, and they used to come home, and they used to lead in a religious space in the mosque. So, and they would teach us Islam. So he frequented home and expressed the interest to marry me.
And how old was he?
35.
Okay.
I think,
And is that a common, like, to be that age, and, for the girls to be that age?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very common practice for older men, even older than that, to actually marry young children. Huh. It's a common practice in even different parts of the world. Lately, because of a lot of awareness and a lot of child protection advocacy, we are seeing some of those practices changing. But sadly, they are still happening in many parts of my country and the world, for sure. So I knew that when I don't run away from home, there was not going to be an opportunity for me to escape. So I ran away from home to look for my mom, because I believed she was the only person that wouldn't allow that to happen. And unfortunately, the journey to find my mom led me into, other spaces, because I didn't know where she was. We didn't have phones. It was difficult for me to communicate. So I ended up being a domestic worker, housemaid in people's homes, and hopping from one family to another, and literally surviving and being exposed to other forms of abuse while I stayed in these strangers' homes, until one good day when a cousin of mine enabled me to find where my mom was. And that is how the story began to shift. And my mother was, got to know about what happened. She was very helpless, but she decided that we are not going to, our education journey was not going to stop. So she went and looked for a school that was willing to give me a scholarship. And that is how I went back into school, and I got a second chance. This couple that had begun a secondary school gave me a chance to study for free. And we were supposed to work for the school. So we would work in the gardens of the school. I would always help out in the kitchen when the cooks were not available. I was the one that when everyone got school holiday, I stayed behind to work on the school farm and do all those
And how old were you
things.
at this point?
I was around 16.
Okay.
So, and we were able to basically, I was able to start school. And by the grace of God, I was academically vibrant, so I performed really well. And then I discovered that I had a gift to dance and act, and that became my hiding place. And I was part of the school choir, such a great performer, high academic performance, great talent on stage with dancing and drama. And so that made me, one of the most favored students in the school. And it secured my place with a scholarship. Along that journey while I was in school, then came a school teacher who came for internship, and she began a fellowship at school. But I never really had given my life to Christ. So one of those days, the enemy just really creeps on me with all the shame. When we bury a lot of pain and shame in our lives, the enemy uses that so many times to blackmail us. I felt like I was the worst hypocrite that ever lived. On the outside, people saw and knew a vibrant, talented, gifted young woman. On the inside, I was crashing. with shame, struggling with voices of feeling not enough, struggling with pleasing people, the pressure to perform and impress, that just the feeling of I'm not wanted and I'm not loved and I'm not enough, the constant feeling that and sense that you are damaged goods. Every time they talked about purity, I couldn't raise my hand and I couldn't have meaningful contributions because I felt like I had no say, and I was hiding this thing in me and I didn't know how to deal with it. So I got to a point where we didn't have language then. I didn't know that there was a word called trauma. I didn't know that there was a word called depression. But now that I know, I realize that is what I was dealing with. I had gone into a whole corner of depression and anxiety and dealing with many layers of trauma and brokenness. And I didn't know how to cope anymore. So I decided to take my life. And long story short, I decided, I wrote my suicide note, mixed poison in a glass and in a school dormitory, and decided to die that night. But this school teacher that began the fellowship, her name is Lydia, Madam Lydia, she says she had a voice of the Holy Spirit telling her to call me, to send for me immediately. My Muslim name was Aisha. So she said the Holy Spirit told her to call for Aisha. So she sends a friend of mine to come and call me. And for whatever reason, Marty, I felt I needed to talk to one more human being before I die. So I found the courage to go and talk to her before I die. And she started saying all those nice things that Christians say when they visit someone in hospital, when they find someone really deep in pain, and just telling me how God loved me and how he sees me and how he knows me by name. And the last thing I wanted to hear was the love of God, because I didn't understand how God would be so kind and loving and let me go through everything I had been through, the brokenness in my family, the poverty levels, the abuse, the pain that I had buried and no one seemed to care. And this lady prayed over me and led me to Christ. She taught me how to read the Bible and to read the Word. And on that journey of me growing and healing, and through the years, I started finding other girls that had experienced similar situations, that for whatever reason, God kept on drawing them to me and they could confide in me about what they are going through.
And were these girls at school?
At school.
Okay.
Yeah, at school. So I was like,
was this a boarding school or?
Yes.
Okay.
It was.
So you were living there?
Yeah, I was living. It was when I got the scholarship, they gave me an opportunity to get into boarding.
Okay.
Because home was very far, I couldn't continue walking from home to school. So I just realized that, oh my goodness, these girls, I don't know why they keep coming to me. I didn't know why they kept on coming to me, and all of a sudden saying, can I talk to you? And they come and they're crying and they're sharing their pain. So that is how God was able to birth this passion and calling that I believe is upon my life for the remnant generation. The word remnant means survivor. And when I was looking up the Bible, every time God was talking about a remnant, a people that will survive after catastrophe. In my country, if a girl got pregnant, or abused, and they drop out of the school system, that is when all the other systems collapse around her. The family system, the social system, the financial system. No one wants to give you a job. You're a bad example. You are out of church. The church will send you out. You're the worst sinner they've ever seen. And I realized that many destinies were being destroyed just because of this sin and pain. So, and just within me, I had just a conviction that there was a generation of those that can survive this, and a generation of girls that can rise and change the narrative of our land. So we began going to schools and talking to young people, because I realized many of them are in school and they are keeping quiet. So we started doing school outreaches, just going out and with a couple of friends, those very girls and some boys that had, we started a friendship. When we finished high school, we started going out to communities and talking to young people.
Always about this issue, this topic in particular?
Yes, so we would go and just break the silence. Actually, I remember that our campaign was Break the Silence.
Okay.
Yeah. It's time to
Because you saw the power in...
Exactly. Yeah. I saw the power in that, and also talked about best choices. So we would talk about sexual purity and sexual risk avoidance for both young men and women, because wherever there was abuse, there was a man involved. and it was either a young man or an older man. So we decided that we are going to talk to both young girls and boys and talk about best choices that we can make, that the quality of life we live is a product of the choices that we make. And we have the power to make those choices, and change the story. So we started taking that as a campaign into schools, and then we also added pieces of self-defense, just training young women.
Sure,
if you find yourself in a place where you're exposed to risk, what do you do?
Yeah.
So, and how do you defend yourself? And when we started those classes, and
was it like karate, or what would you do?
yeah, so part of that was karate,
mace,
and then part of that was just teaching them where the right places to hit.
Sure.
Having spray, how to use your voice to scream for help.
Okay.
How to avoid compromising places. How not to say yes to every offer. Someone says, I want to offer you food. I want to offer you a drink. I want to take you out. Just being aware and alert.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that is how.
Training.
Yeah, just
awareness.
Training and awareness and equipping these young people with tools that will enable them to actually be safe, but also protect others from abuse, and also not to be abusers. Because when you find many people that have experienced abuse and they have not healed and dealt with it, they end up becoming abusers.
It's a cycle.
It's a cycle. My woundedness and my pain had set me onto a path of self-destruction. So we realized that if you're bleeding, you can actually end up hurting other people that didn't hurt you.
If you were to go back to that time, your own sort of victory over the shame, the secrecy, you break the silence, then what was the next step, or what happened? What have you seen that starts to happen with people, in that process?
So what happened to me is that the moment I was able to find courage to share my experience with that first teacher that I felt was a safe space, one of the most important things is for everybody that has been through whatever abusive situation, or everyone that is dealing with a secret in their life, is to find a safe space. A safe space can be a person. A safe space can be an actual place where you go, and either it's a church, some people take a walk in the woods, whatever, and they feel like they are able to let it out and verbalize what happened. I think for me, when I was able to verbalize what happened and I gave it language and I was confident to say I was abused, and then that abuse was incest, and this is what is happening to me, I'm in pain, I feel unworthy. I was able to name things that I was feeling on the inside of me that I felt I didn't have language for. But then when I found language for them and I named them, I felt like I started receiving courage to deal with them. Because then when you don't name them or verbalize them, then you live in denial. And you want to continue hiding. Because whenever you talk about I was sexually abused, what immediately counterattacks that is shame. Don't say that. You can't say that. That is shameful. So I had to actually say, there is so many forms of abuse. I need to name what mine was. And that started building in me a confidence to actually deal with it. I started looking up scripture with the help of Madam Lydia and the Bible that spoke into what I was going through. And on one of those days while I was reading the word, I came across the story of a girl in the Bible called Tamara that was a daughter of King David. And the narration of that story was as if God came into my room and took my story and wrote exactly what happened. So, and I was very shocked that the Bible had
a story of rape and incest.
Exactly. Yeah. And from a powerful king, not from any other person. And I was like, okay, and that helped me to understand I am not alone. It's because in that moment, for all the years, I felt like I was the only person that this happens to. So, and I was like, no, I'm not alone. It has happened to other people, and it is not the first time. It has been there for many years. So it gave me the courage to start seeking help. I started understanding that I cannot do it on my own. So I sought help. I talked to Madam Lydia, was my safe space, so I could tell her everything. And so as the girls started coming and talking to me about what they are going through, I just, and then I started also to find the courage to speak to them about my own experience. And for me, in the head, it was just to tell them, you are not alone. Another person has gone through this. You're not the only one. But it doesn't have to continue to your siblings or to another person. We can be the people that speak up. Don't hide this. Don't go under because it's your dad, because it's your uncle, because it's your grandfather. It doesn't mean that what they are doing there is right. That is why they want you to keep quiet. But if you don't speak up, if we don't address it, then another person is going to be a victim. For me now, my healing started coming as a result of understanding that my pain carried purpose. And
That's amazing.
It was helping another person.
Yeah, it reframes it all.
Yeah.
The pain changes from shame and secrecy, and it brings it out into the light.
Yeah.
And then you see that it can be used for, like you say, a purpose is a good word for it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where things are in the shadows. Secrecy sort of holds us back. It keeps us from living into our purpose, ultimately. Like it really handicaps what we were made to be, because some of what you described was you didn't think you had a right to say something or speak up, or we feel like, who am I to say something about this, or to have confidence to even speak publicly about anything, because I'm for fear of being a hypocrite. Yeah. Because I'm living like with these masks. And I think that's true of any secret type of, if you want to call it a sin, or any secrets that people have. I just feel like I feel very personally burdened by this issue of, secrets can do so much damage. But to come out into the light with it takes an incredible amount of courage. It could be a little thing to other people, but to you, it takes an incredible amount of courage. Especially if you were told as a young child, essentially is what you were, that you're going to shame the family. Because these are things that you, as a young person, you don't want to shame your family. You don't want to, maybe see someone get arrested even, or just all kinds of implications, or even your own safety. These are things people wrestle with, whether it's children or adults, I think. But to me, the irony, or I don't know if that's the right word for it, but is that there's actually all this healing and freedom that comes from something as a result of bringing it out into the light and telling someone in a safe place this secret, giving it words, giving it a name, and then it starts to lose power over you, because it's not just living in this secret space in your own head, in the prison of your own mind.
Yeah. And it also helps you to confront the uncomfortable, because, every time, even when there is pain, there is also things that develop in you that send you on a path of self-destruction. I realized that for me...
And what is that all about? Why do you think that is?
Because for you to be able to keep the secret, you develop characters and habits that are not who you are.
To numb the pain?
Numb the pain, exactly. To numb the pain, there is a lot of deception. You're not true to who you are, not true to your own values and self. You don't even realize who you really are. When people say, who are you? You can't necessarily find worth or security and confidence in who God made you to be. And many young women, when you look at the statistics and see that 1 in 4 girls in Uganda has experienced sexual abuse before they turn 18. And globally, the statistics are horrifying, to just know that in every 10 women, at least there are 5, which is half, 50%, that have experienced sexual violence in their childhood. And so you realize that people grow up, and then you start saying, why are they making the choices they are making? Why is someone bitter, unforgiving, and harsh? Because when you count yourself out, even when opportunities show up, you give less than to the world. You present less of who you are, and you don't bring the best version of yourself on the table, whether in the workspace, whether in the family, whether in any environment. So
that's an interesting way of looking at it. It's not just robbing you, it's robbing the world of you.
Exactly.
Of who you could be.
Yes. And so that is why when we started the Remnant Generation, really the heart is, how do we reclaim a generation that the enemy has sought so hard to destroy, and deny them the opportunity to thrive according to God's plan for their lives.
I haven't shared this with you, but I read my Bible on my phone now, but it used to be, I had a hard Bible, and I would underline a lot of things in there. But for some reason, the remnant word always fascinated me. I just thought that was an interesting concept, and it goes all throughout the Old Testament and everything,
yeah.
that there's some remnant of people that God has in mind to that are survivors of some sort, and I haven't studied it, but as much as you have. But it's an interesting theme throughout Scripture of this remnant group.
Yes, yeah. When you think about a piece of fabric that is big, we love fabrics. So, piece of fabric, and then you cut out what the tailor thinks or the seamstress thinks that this is the most important piece that I'm going to make into a shirt or a trouser. And then whatever remains many times is looked at as not important, and they want to discard it off. So many people in the design industry, in the building industry, you have remnants of building products.
Right. Scraps.
You have scraps and all of that. And what happens usually? We dispose them off.
Yeah.
We throw them away because what we thought was valuable has been taken away. Now, in my culture, I don't know about the US, but I think maybe it's the same as well. A girl's purity and her innocence is one of the most treasured assets. And once that is taken away forcefully, or when someone is not, whatever the circumstances are, and that is taken away from them, it is like the most valuable thing has been taken. And so whatever remains of you is useless. And in our culture, people have very dehumanizing names that they give to a person like that. When you get married and you aren't a virgin, they call you all these sorts of very dehumanizing names. So which are all to assert that you are of less value.
Wow.
Whatever remained is not a thing. So. And then you read the Bible and say God is saying that I'm turning remnants into something glorious. And for me, when I read Isaiah 61, and I read, there was a scripture, I think it's Isaiah 61 verse 4 and then verse 8, and he says that instead of shame, I'll give you a double portion of honor.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, I cried so much, and I was like, okay, instead of shame, he takes whatever has remained and gives a double portion of honor. He takes my ashes and says that he will turn them into a crown of beauty. And I realized that what has remained of me, what was valuable according to the eyes of man, has been taken away. But what is left, he says that is what he'll turn into a double portion of honor. And said, okay, I'll hold on to that.
Yeah, that's great.
To be the beginning of a new story, and to be a beginning of a new story of all other girls, so that we are able to help them see themselves in the lens of who God sees them to be.
So let's talk about that some more. So fast forwarding through your story, and just kind of talk us through the journey that got you to where you are today, and kind of where things are now.
So it began with me in one room, one bed, and one mattress, and 9 girls. And we somehow, I had to do like 3-5 jobs.
It's like a little fraternity of some sort.
Yes, exactly. So I used to be a female MC. I used to dance. I used to do flowers.
Sorority, I should say.
And all those different things to be able to manage and feed and take care of these guys. And then at some point I had to take in my siblings as well. So it was a big family, and I had all this responsibility on my hands. I was working in an organization. Then I was employed while studying at the same time, pursuing my degree at university in accounting and finance. So juggling all of that. And then I remember clearly in 2014, God was telling me that this is the last time I would be employed, that I need to step out. And I was like, I'm not ready. I don't have savings. I don't have partners. And what is this? I was like, no, this is the last year that you're working. You're stepping out. So we had gotten married with, to my husband in 2012, and he knew that I had this heart. And I decided to just walk in obedience, and I resigned. So December 2014, I left my job, so that I didn't go back in 2015. And in 2015 is when the Remnant Generation was officially birthed.
Okay.
And we grew from being an outreach ministry, and from that rented room with 9 girls. And I've now, over the years, built a model of care that we call the 3RT model. That is really a summary of 3 R's and a T, that is an acronym to mean rescue, restore, repurpose, and thrive, which summarizes the journey that we walk with each of and every girl that comes into our care. So rescue is where now we still go out and do outreaches in villages, in schools, on the streets, and in partnership with other law enforcement friends and other organizations. We also get so many referrals from police, from probation office, from community leaders, from alumni that know where we are and send their fellow girls as well. And so we do rescue, and that is taking girls out of a place of vulnerability to a place of safety. And so we rescue them
into a shelter.
Yeah, into a shelter. So we have 3 shelters at the moment. 2 of them are dedicated to teenage mothers, and one of those is dedicated to girls that are coming out of commercial sex exploitation. So these are young children that we are rescuing out of brothels, out of off the streets that have been being sold off.
How young? Like, what is the age range?
Sex. We've had 8-year-olds.
8.
Yes, 9-year-olds. We've had 10, 12. The oldest that we have now in the shelter is 19. So basically, it is those the girls that are coming out of that have been exposed a lot. Some of them have been born and raised in that kind of life, so they kind of took off after what they found their mothers doing. And then other girls have been brought from villages and promised jobs or scholarships in the city, and then when they get to the towns, they're actually being traded off. While they're with us, we start.
Are they willingly coming into the shelter always, or did some of them resist it?
So there are some that don't want to come. They have lost a sense of trust. And a choice has been taken away from them. And one of the things, as you're building their agency, you want to make sure that you give them an opportunity to choose to participate in this journey. And even when it's not a good thing, you know that they are exposed to risk. You don't want them to come forcefully. So what the police, the law enforcement usually will do is that they will round them up and take them to a child care facility or something. Some of them have been exposed to a lot of drug influence, drug abuse. So the whole restoration process needs someone to be willing and participating. So we build trust. It's very important before the girls come in. In fact, we have a policy that when they come in, they have an opportunity to run 3 times. And because we know that change, especially for such girls, cannot happen overnight. They'll come and then feel insecure, or they're relapsing and say, when you run away, you can come back, but it's only 3 times.
Okay.
And then after 3 times, then we can't be able to do that.
So you do have girls who run away from you?
Yeah, we have especially from the Jewels of Honor shelter.
Okay.
For those that are especially struggling with drug withdrawal.
In the middle of the night, are they right away? I mean, what does that typically look like, a runaway?
A runaway could be like, when you are at school, for example, they are into the classes, and someone says, I want to go out to the bathroom, and
then they go.
And then they cut a corner.
Wow.
So we have installed security cameras. We have all these measures. But usually there's, when someone is used to a place, they get to know where the weak area is, and they can take advantage of that.
So I always find this is a curious point. Even when you're rescuing someone, they don't necessarily want to be rescued. But
Marty, it's also a realization that you don't expect that person to be in a place where they're even thinking that their life can change overnight.
Right.
Sometimes what looks like comfort and change becomes uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So you need to help them to come to that place, and also just deal with there are so many layers when there is trauma, and although these adverse effects, many people, the brain is reacting differently, and every time they look at a strange thing, a new environment, they think confinement, they think
another prison,
another this. So maybe when I run, I'll be free. But that is how now we come alongside that process and help them. Thankfully, many of them end up coming back. and then we are able to continue the process and helping them to heal. So the restoration program has a lot of counseling, mental health support, maternal child health support, helping them to withdraw of drugs, supporting girls that are living with HIV/AIDS, those that are breastfeeding moms. Some of them are living with sickle cell anemia, and just dealing, some of them come in when they are very malnourished. They have not been eating for a long time. So it is a whole program. And what we do, we develop what we call an individualized based care approach. So every girl, when we do assessment, health assessments, social work assessments, mentor assessments, it gives us information that helps us to develop an individualized care plan for each of these girls. And we have social workers and coaches, we call our trainers coaches, that we attach to these girls, and we walk a journey of restoration. We give them opportunity to lead, so that they are able to feel like they are part of their own transformation. Yeah. We are not just imposing it on them. They want to be involved. So we have girls that lead. We have leadership, support systems within the shelters, within the community program. They actually vote for their own leader, because that is how you're going to build them to be a remnant generation.
Yeah. Of course, you have your own story, but you also have alumni who can share their story and be an encouragement and walk alongside. I think it would be interesting to hear a couple, maybe one or two of those alumni stories too, just to see like that process, and then to see those people turn their pain into purpose as well. You're seeing more and more of those stories as well.
I mean, we've had 7,765 girls in these 10 years.
Wow.
That have gone through our programs. So God has been good, and there are many stories of transformation. So one of the girls is Robina, and she was rescued at a point where she wanted to commit suicide, literally jumping off a cliff and falling into a river. She had gotten pregnant, chased away from home, worked in bars, and she was expected to sell her body and beer, and yet she was already pregnant. And so she decided that, that was enough, and she ended up on the streets of Kampala. So by the time she came to us, she was very suicidal. She didn't want to eat. She just literally wanted to die. And we started just walking a journey of love and building trust and allowing her to process the pain and to name what happened to her and just walk the whole process. There were times when she was relapsing back into trying to commit suicide. So our house mother had to always stay up, to make sure that we have taken away. We used to lock everything away, that knives, anything that you think she can use to harm her life, literally. And we had a lot of prayer. And thankfully, she gave birth to her child. But that girl was able, after the delivery of her child, something flipped. And she was able to choose to dream again, to believe again. And she told us, I'll give my son a different experience. He'll never have to go through what I've been through. And so she decided that she's going to work hard and make herself better. She wanted this. She wanted to change. She gave her life to Christ. We baptized her. And she started working hard. She wanted to go back to school. And through an education sponsorship program that we run, where we find in people that can, and help us to sponsor girls to go back to school, she was able to get an opportunity to return to school. And she is our first girl that graduated from university. Others are still
Congratulations.
studying.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah. So she graduated with a bachelor's degree in procurement and logistics. And she's a very anointed businesswoman. Like, she is anointed for business. And so she came and decided, after her degree, she came and asked if she could join that team. And I was like, of course. So she helped us to develop the business model that we are using now for the business clubs.
Okay.
Where she said, let us get these girls into groups and for the classes, the things that they are learning, and then let us help them to turn their those things that they are learning into small businesses. And create a
this is a fascinating topic. It's like a sustainability opportunity, like for them to take pride in their work, to live into their gifting and possible. What are some of those things that, some of these business concepts that you're finding?
So they are doing a bakery. We have girls that are into baking. We have girls that are into Thrive Collections, which is a fashion house. They are making different types of clothes and many things.
You said the outfit you're wearing.
Yes, exactly. Like the outfit I'm wearing. And so we make pregnant women clothes, baby clothes.
Okay.
And mainly they've made and...
So sewing machines and design.
And design, yeah. And then we also have detergents. We have what we call the Thrive detergents. And this is liquid soap, hand wash, shampoo.
And you're making those?
Yes.
How do they make? I would have no idea how you do that. How do you do that?
We are using very local tools.
Okay.
And literally we use big buckets and then use, mingling sticks, wooden sticks, and we mix the chemicals. We have all these templates.
And who are the customers for these?
That Remnant Generation is a customer. We have schools where we go for outreaches, local businesses that we have identified a network of local businesses that are having salons, washing bays, restaurants. They are using soap every day to clean.
Sure, yeah.
So we'd say, this is it, be our customers. And we make and then put into 5-liter jerry cans and 20-liter jerry cans and then sell that.
What do you call them? Jerry cans?
Jerry cans. I don't know what. What are they? They are containers. Like they are. You don't know? You don't have jerry cans in the US?
I have no idea what that is.
Oh my gosh.
I learned something new today.
We call them jerry cans, but they are like cans. Literally, they are plastic cans that are, in liters, 5 liters, 3 liters, 10 liters. Okay. But we focus on the 5 and the 20 liter because that is where most of the business is. But then we see these bottles, we have similar bottles back home, but they're a little bit longer.
Okay.
And so these plastic bottles, instead of people throw them away. And so we collect them, and then girls use these bottles and pack soap. So people that cannot afford to buy a 5 liter can actually buy a 5 liter. And we've seen girls from those savings buy cows. They've started piggery projects. They are able to sustain themselves, and that is our alumni that was able to come on board and help us develop that as a program.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you have an anniversary coming up as an organization then.
Yeah.
Your 10th anniversary. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. To celebrate, we are bringing together a tithe, 10%, in recognition of 10 years. So 10% of the girls that we have served over the years. And because there are many and we don't have room to bring everyone, so we are just bringing a 10th. So from we call them generations. So from generations 1 to generation 10, which is a representation of every year, we have identified a group that is coming together.
Very nice.
We are going to have about 2,000 people gathered. It's going to be a celebration of God's grace. We shall have, stories and of impact. We shall have some awards that shared for staff and appreciation of our partners that have been part of this journey.
I saw the video that you guys put together, which was great. And people are speaking a different language than English in the video at times. What language is that?
It is Luganda. English is our official language.
Official language is English.
So that's what we study in school. We were colonized by the British.
Okay.
So all our official communication and everything is in English.
Okay. And do you drive on the left side of the road or the right side of the road?
We drive on the left side. You guys are always driving on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah, we're on the wrong side. Okay. Yeah, anywhere where the British were is the left.
Yeah, it's the left.
Yeah.
So basically, and so we use English. But Uganda has more than 62 tribes.
Okay.
So, and every tribe has its own language.
Okay.
So even the girls that we serve, many of them speak different languages.
But do they also speak English or?
Some.
But not all.
Yeah, not all. But somehow, because now we are teaching, we part of what our skills training program includes literacy and numeracy. So they learn basic English because it is needed.
But how many of these languages, these tribal languages, do you know?
I can comfortably communicate at least with 5 languages. I can hear.
Okay. Wow.
I may not be able to speak fluently.
But is Lugandan the most common?
Yeah, Luganda is most common because Buganda Kingdom is in the center of Uganda.
So you're confusing me. You got Uganda, Buganda, and Luganda.
Yes.
So what's Uganda? What are these names?
So Buganda is the tribe of people called Baganda. And that is where I belong.
Okay.
I'm a Muganda from Buganda, which is the kingdom of Buganda. And Buganda, when the British came and they were giving us independence, it was the most loyal.
What year was this?
tribe. 1950.
1950, you had independence.
Yeah, independence from the British.
Okay.
Yeah, 1950, 1955. In the 50s.
Yeah.
Yes, that is when we got our independence.
Okay.
And so because the kingdom of Buganda was very royal and supportive, the name Uganda was gotten out of Buganda.
Okay.
So that is how from Buganda, like when you remove the B, then there is Uganda. So but then the people of Buganda speak Luganda.
Wow, this is confusing. Well, I guess one last thing, because I don't know if we touched on it on this on the podcast, but just you talked about the original name and you got this new name, and you wanna talk about that just for a minute here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
because I know that's a significant thing for you.
Yes, it is. My original name was Aisha, and when I gave my life to Christ, I was given a name Annabelle, and that name means beautiful grace.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes, God's beautiful grace. And that's the label I think that has gave me new identity.
Yeah.
In God. When God called Abraham, he was Abram.
Yeah.
And when God, Sarah was Sarai.
Yeah.
And God changed his name and called him by a new name.
Yeah.
And for me, when I got that new name, it reaffirmed identity for me that I am God, walking in God's beautiful grace.
Wow.
And so somehow that name built my confidence and gave me a new perspective of how I see myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, I think for me, what's striking is to hear, your own story. And I think that's a powerful thing. Our stories are powerful. That's one of the reasons we want to do the podcast, to help people tell their stories. Sometimes these things, if you watch the news or you hear about things very far away, they just seem so overwhelming. I don't even know where to start. And yet when you hear about one life that's been changed and then that person's purpose starts to turn from that, their pain turns into purpose, and then they can start to impact other people's lives. And it's just this ripple effect that can affect people for generations to come, to change the cycles. I think that's an inspiring story, and I think if more people can hear your story and see the good work that you're doing, so we're happy to support, and we're going to continue to support. And I think for us, we're going back to the original sort of idea of this podcast. Sometimes we build something, we're not exactly sure what we're going to do with it. Of course, there's lots of podcasts out there. People, you said you've started your own podcast.
Yes.
In Uganda. You've done more episodes than we have already. But you never know who's going to listen to. We can have relationship in person and hear each other's stories, but it's this medium that allows us to broadcast this, all over the world in some way. And, people can hear your story, and who knows what God's going to do with that. So we at Ozinga are very inspired in our day-to-day work when we can help make connections to how our work can impact things that are, way beyond like just delivering concrete or building materials or whatever. We love doing that. It's great to serve our customers, but because we have a commitment to give back to organizations like the Remnant Generation, to me, it's a very rewarding thing to be a part of. And so we're glad you were able to make it here.
Yeah, thank you. I just really grateful. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And I really strongly believe that because of this seed, many lives are continuously going to be impacted. Yeah. And I just want to send an invitation to people that are friends of Ozinga and any other people that are out there that are desiring to make a difference. Do not wait until you have everything. All of us have a God-given purpose.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the full frame of what it's going to be like. But where you are, where God has positioned you, you can start from there.
That's great.
And make a difference. The world is looking for people that are ready to embrace their calling and purpose, because the solutions of this world have been given to the sons and daughters of God.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen. Yeah.
Again, thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure to talk with you and hear your story. We wish you safe travels back home to Uganda.
Thank you.
And tell Isaac we said hello and give those kids a hug for us.
I will.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, Marty. Bye-bye.
Make sure to subscribe to Set in Stone on your preferred podcast app as well as on YouTube for full video of every conversation. Keep up on our social media and company updates over at ozinga.com.